trouble. And it did, constantly. But it definitely kept life interesting. No matter how much trouble he got into, it never deterred him from saying yes, yes, yes to just about every opportunity and every person who came his way. I've never met anyone. He could meet a stranger 1 minute, and 10 minutes later, he made a friend of that person. He truly had a gift for life. One of his favorite sayings, which I believe you're going to see on the dessert, on the cake, is carpe diem, which is Latin for catch the day, seize the moment, live life to the fullest. And really, for all of us here today who love him, that's the greatest legacy we can do in his honor, is each of us live life to the fullest, take no moment for granted. Warren's philosophy of life was simple. If a little is good, more is so much better. That also got him in a lot of trouble. There is a saying that you can tell a lot about a person, whether they view the glass as half empty or half full. Well, Warren not only viewed the glass as always being half full, no matter how difficult times were for him. And as you know, there were many, many difficult times. Not only was the glass always half full, but the other half was always delicious. Our wonderful Warren passed away in March of this year in his beloved New Zealand, where he is laid to rest. When Warren's health began to fail him 10 years ago, he made me promise, this is Warren, right? He made me promise to throw him at least 2 big parties as celebrations of his life. I told him that if he passed away, the last thing on my mind would be throwing parties. Nonetheless, he made me promise, and here we are today. Now, there already have been quite a few parties in his honor in New Zealand. His New Zealand friends have dedicated his birthday as practically a national New Zealand holiday, and they plan to celebrate it every year. As a matter of fact, I got an email his last birthday in June, and they said, "Is it okay? We're going to throw a party at your house." And I said, "Sure, and we're going to do it every year." I said, "Well, thanks for the notice. Sure, go ahead." It's nice to know there's a lot of love in that house. Our friends in New Zealand now also celebrate July 4th and Thanksgiving in his honor, although I'm sure they don't have a clue what those holidays signify for us. On the Waitangi Golf Course in New Zealand, on the 19th hole, which for those of you who aren't golfers, which is where golfers rest after 18 vigorous holes of golf and have a soothing drink and discuss all the drama, the highs and lows of their golf game. Well, his New Zealand friends, still today, are placing a glass of wine in front of an empty chair after every golf game, and they toast to Warren. He was dearly loved by so many. The Nelson family, the kids and grandkids who are all here today, we also have had many private, intimate celebrations of Warren's life. We all feel Warren's presence at every moment. Literally every moment he is here with us. We hear his laughter. We feel his loving warmth. We hear his jokes and his wisdom. Many of you have told me that Warren was such a life force that you feel him ever present too, that you still hear his laughter, that you feel he could come bounding, whoa, sorry, there he did it, Warren, you made me do that, that he could come bounding into the room at any moment, and we all feel that way too, that he could just walk through that gate and say, "Hi, guys." We feel that. Well, now it's showtime. We've got a great show for you. We have so many wonderful, talented musical friends, and they've put a wonderful show together for you. Now, beware, it scans the gamut from the sublime to the ridiculous and back to the sublime, as Warren so often did himself. Please feel free to pull out your cell phones and please take lots of photos and little short videos. And I'll accumulate them. I'll put them all together for posterity. We'd really, really love to have that. And you all have my email address. Also, during dinner, when you have time and you're sitting and relaxing, we'll be passing around a memory book. And if you feel so inspired, please write an anecdote that comes to mind about Warren that you may have shared together. Now, you ready for a good show? Yes. Okay, here we go. To begin the celebration of Warren's life, Daria Adams. Did she run away? Is she? Oh, there she is. Oh. You still have time to escape. Daria Adams, a fantastic friend to both of us and really like a sister to me. She and her husband, Michael Adams, both founded Music in the Vineyards and remain the creative director of this fabulous music festival. Daria will honor us with her brilliant violin. And to accompany Daria on the piano is Raja Orr, handsome young man there to my right, an accomplished pianist, a great piano teacher, and a brilliant composer. Please welcome Daria Adams and Raja Orr.
Play here, and when Maritza asked me to play something, I thought about it for just a brief moment, and right away the thought came to me to do this piece by Fritz Kreisler, and it's called Liebesfreude, which means love's joy. And it's just so, I have goosebumps. It's just so perfect for the two of them because, your love was really, really obvious and evident always, and the joy always just emanated from the two of you. So in this little piece, you'll hear a lot of love and a lot of laughter. So enjoy.
so proud of his son, Brian. Brian turned out, much to everybody's surprise, to be a loving family man and quite a good surfer. So, yeah, Warren couldn't believe, and he often said this, I can't believe that I produced such a magnificent son. Where did they come from? He often used to say that raising Brian as his son was one of the greatest honors and privileges of his life.
He and I talk a lot. I hear he likes it.
Sure he does.
So, I have a couple to ask. I ask that you guys enjoy each other's company. I ask that you guys talk about Warren, sharing his memories, support each other. Talk to Maritza and give her the comfort. When you think of Maritza, call her.
Yep.
You know, I think today that would make my dad smile.
Yep, you would.
You know, it brings me comfort to know that he's directing my thinking today. So again, I'd like to thank all of you guys for being here, participating in this celebration of life. And I'm confident he'd want you to drink until your head hurts, laugh until your belly hurts, stay a little longer than you should. And, so if you have a glass, please raise it up. And let's give a little toast for our friend, our dad, our brother, our uncle, our grandpa, Warren. Love you.
Warren loved all kinds of music, and he loved it with his whole being. But Warren's real classical music love was Puccini opera. And his favorite aria was O mio bambino caro. It would move him to tears every time he heard it. Many years ago, Warren and Maritza came to an event, and I was going to sing O mio bambino caro. I'd barely sung the first phrase when I made the mistake of looking at Warren right in the front row. He was clinging to Maritza, openly sobbing, tears rolling down his cheeks, unabashedly. He loved that piece so much that he even loved it when an amateur sung it. Needless to say, it took everything in me to stay focused and finish the aria that day without falling apart myself. O mio bambino caro is the impassioned plea of a 17-year-old girl begging her father to let her marry her boyfriend, or she threatens to throw herself in the Arno River. Well, I'm closer to 70 than 17, so please suspend your disbelief. But Warren, this is for you, my friend.
Mi piace Maritza got me, sorry. And now I have to do this. All right. So I pretty much wrote a little letter to my dad, and I'd like to share it with you. Hey, Daddy-O, it's me, Squirt. That's what you always called me. I want to thank you for giving me a beautiful life. You have always shown me how much you love me. You have always taken care of me, and I love and miss you dearly. Thank you for teaching me that time is precious, and we need to live life with a smile and a heart full of love. Thank you for being my teacher in life, my hero, and my greatest supporter. You taught me how I should be treated and how I should be respected. I never could have gotten through many situations in life without you by my side. Honestly, I don't know what I'm going to do without you present in my life, but your love for life will continue in me and so many others you have touched throughout the years. I will love you forever. Love your darling daughter, aka Squirt. Thank you all so much for being here.
Now I get to introduce my very dear friend, Vince Nash. Vince and I have been writing songs together for about 4 years now. And much to our complete surprise, our songs are doing really well. We've got millions of fans globally. And Vince, although he's a bit under the weather today, and so you won't hear him in full magnificent voice, but Vince insisted on singing for his very good friend Warren. Please welcome Vince Nash.
Yeah, pretty much there, huh?
Well, thank you, everyone. Hello.
Hang on. There you go.
Thank you, everybody. It's my honor to be here, and it's my honor to call Warren my friend. So, this is a song that Lisa and I wrote, and it was inspired by a little town called Opua. And I'm sure a lot of you know the significance of that. This is called Town of My Dreams. I live in this town every night, in my dreams, where hope flows like water, in a gentle stream, where children play without fear, neighbors offer good cheer, and courtesy is sincere, and kindness is key. I live in this town every night in my dreams, where everyone's greeted with smiles, and every conversation rings with laughter for miles, and kindness is king. Every night I live in this town of love and light, where everyone tries just to do what's right, where beauty is found in everyone and everything. Yes, and kindness is king. In the town of my dreams, won't you join me in this town? Bring your love and come on down.
every night. I live in this town of love and light, where everyone tries just to do what's right, where beauty is found in everyone and everything. Yes, and kindness is king. In the town of my dreams, the town of my dreams. Won't you join me in this town? Bring your love and come on down to the town of my dreams, my dreams.
It started out very early in his life. Now, I don't know exactly how early because I was younger than he, markedly. And I always let him know that I was his. When he introduced me, I always said, yes, I'm his much younger sister. We were a family of 6, 4 of us, and I was the youngest after 3 boys. So you can imagine what the household was like. He was my big brother, my BB, and I was his little sister, LS. I do know that he was not given the nickname in our family, Morning Glory, for no reason. He would wake up in the morning in his loud way, "Good morning, isn't it a beautiful day?" And we'd all go, "Morn hush," or something to that effect. Yeah. And he didn't. I remember when he was still a young boy and he got very sick with mumps pancreatitis and had to go downtown to the general hospital to the contagious unit. And he was very sick, and we would go down to the hospital and park in the driveway, and he would come to the window and we would all wave at each other. And the doctors at that time told my parents that they really were not too sure whether he'd ever be able to have children. They didn't know our invincible Warren. And yes, with his wife, they produced 2 beautiful children who you've heard from already. Our family loved baseball. We were Dodger fans, by the way, because we grew up in Southern California. And one day Warren wanted to sign me up as his pitcher. Not a good idea. So I pitched the ball to him. He hit it so hard it went straight to my left eye. I had the biggest, blackest shiner you could ever. And none of the teachers said how'd you. None of the teachers said anything. It was just like, oh, okay. Okay. He wasn't good with limits that were put on him, as though they did not apply to him. And Mom would buy a can of frozen orange juice, and I'm sure a lot of people remember those, and you would dilute them and put them in a carafe of some sort. And Warren would go in, and they were meant for the whole family, and Warren would go in, and right in front of Mom, he would take the carafe, and he'd drink the whole thing down. Warren, she'd get upset, but she never got too upset with him. Let me see. He was never malicious. As you know, he was just a free spirit. My BB never knew to stop his bad behavior. This is a good one. And so often went too far. He pushed Mom to her limit and was rewarded with having his mouth washed out with soap. The rest of us, as he loudly protested, the rest of us would be in the kitchen laughing, of course, at Warren, but we couldn't do it too loud because we knew that we would be on the other end of that if Mom heard us. His social life and friends always came before his school studies, as evidenced by him having to take Geometry 1 3 times. And the joke in the family was that he was majoring in Geometry 1. He did not always cause consequences of his actions. didn't think it through. When I was probably 7 or 8, I took our little dog Bertha to the grocery store to pick up some groceries for our mom, and I tied her up on a whatever, a pipe. It was a pipe, yeah. And I went and got the groceries. I came out, she was gone. She was gone. Being this little girl, I was sobbing. I was frantic. I was calling for her. I was afraid somebody had stolen her. And finally, this president of the PTA took me home. There was Warren with Bertha. And Warren had just walked by the grocery store, saw her tied up, and decided he would take her home. And of course, not telling his sister. Our brother Bill and Warren were surfers, and they decided they wanted to paint their bedroom in a ocean motif type of thing. And they got some seafoam green. And it all seemed to be going well until when accidentally exiting the ladder, Warren stepped with his entire foot into a gallon of seafoam green paint. But that was him. Let me see what I go here. Okay. And I remember when he pushed Dad too far with his loudness, and Dad told him in a resounding voice, "Warren, your mouth is as big as a plate." We weren't exactly clear on the metaphor, but we also clearly knew what he was talking about. Our sweet Warren was the most generous person I have ever known. For example, he fully funded. I have 2 grandsons, his grandnephews, and he fully funded their college education. I mean, who does that? Who does that? Well, we continued our love of baseball. We'd felt since we were kids. And I actually grew up on the baseball field because I had 3 older brothers, and one of them was playing at one time or another. So, and I would always give him grief about being a Giants fan. I called him a turncoat because we grew up down south, all of a sudden he let that one go. So last year, the Giants were ahead of the Dodgers, and Warren would tease me relentlessly. Now, I'm sure you all remember it was like maybe a game or two. They would be at 101, we'd be at 100. That went that way. And Warren would say to me, "Do you know who we see when we look behind us? The Dodgers!" Yeah, he thought that was really funny. And it really was, it was him. When I say that we were only 1 game behind, he would repeat that mantra always, with the same response. Where am I? Okay. Okay. I had to make some changes in here. He was, we would all go to church. We were Episcopalians, and every Sunday we would go. And in the front seat would be my mom and dad and me in the middle, and the back seat would be the 3 boys. And inevitably, on the way home from church, there would be this foul smell that would waft up to the front seat from the back. And everybody would say, "Warren!" And he would always go, "It's not me. It's not me. It must have been John, or it was Bill, but it wasn't me." And it wasn't all that long ago when I saw him, when you guys were back in Asheville. And I said, "What about that, Warren?" He went, "It was me." I just looked, it was me. Ah, jeez. He was the best big brother a sister could ever have. And I miss him terribly every day. It eludes me that he is still really gone. Matter of fact, I was coming up and I saw this young man from behind, and it was Warren's head. And I said, "That's got to be Brian." But it really touched me. I told him many times in the last few years that I wanted to die before him. Because I told him I always wanted him in my life. I think that's about the only time he disappointed me. Anyhow, now present company excluded, please. Every day as the Dodgers get far and away the National League West. What are we up to, 17 now? 18? I look at the sky and I yell, Warren, do you know what I see when I look behind us? Yes, the Giants.
He has reunited his unforgettable singing sensation, the Four Skins. Accompanied by no other than Ann Evans, a delightful pianist, a good friend, and also, as we recently discovered, a distant cousin. Now, please welcome the Four Skins, Don Hefkin, Chuck Morris, Mike Mitchell, and the one and only Eric Engelman with Ann Evans on piano.
Next we have what we call a semi-musical offering. A local group, Four Friends of Warren. So let me introduce them to you. Mike Mitchell, head of productions. Don Hefkin, head of logistics.
No, you forgot my name. Alfred E. Newman.
Chuck Morris, who's head of, he is actually our legal advisor.
I just want to say, when and I don't remember names or the name of the piece that she sang, but the soprano, when she said that Warren burst into tears, well, if Warren burst into tears when we start to sing, it'll be for a completely different reason.
And that's true. That's a true story. And the many times we performed throughout the Bay Area, there are many people who, listening to our performances, have burst into tears. So before we go on any further, we wanted to thank Ann Evans. She doesn't know about this. She was reluctant to have her number called here, and for us to say that hers is probably the most difficult role of anyone tonight. She is giving musical support to our group.
Oh, shucks.
And so please honor her appropriately for her bravery and her pianistic abilities. So this is a two-part presentation. I'm going to turn this over to Mike Mitchell, who's head of productions, to introduce the first of a two-part program for you from the Four Skins.
Well, thanks, and great to see you, and I know we all feel the same. Warren's deep in our hearts right now. Warren and I, as Brian alluded to, many conversations, many overpours, and so we would go deep into things. But one of the things we went deep into was the military. I didn't serve, but these three did, and so I'm they're just tagging me along on this particular one, and I'm maybe Warren's coattails here. But Warren loved the military, and he was the Wounded Warrior program. He was a very big part of. We would play in golf tournaments every time he needed a fourth that someone like Chuck didn't show up. I got to play, but at any rate, Warren was a grand supporter of the military in many ways, and my wife Carol and I, she's the Air Force, but she loves the Blue Angels, and Warren loved the Blue Angels. He's Navy, and we would take him to the Blue Angels a couple of years in a row, and we had a grand time there, and of course he took a Jerry-bomb of Far Niente, which helped a little bit. But at any rate, that's where the military came in our conversations. And then Eric asked, come up with something. And but he didn't say military. He said something totally different than that, but I thought, hey, we used to go to concerts at the Lincoln Theater, and they would play the military medley. And so I wrote a little thing about the military medley. Eric refined the words, which mine were a little dangerous, but did. But at any rate, that's what we're doing now.
Over hill, over dale, Warren came in like a gale, and the tempest was soon to begin. Family first from the start, this kid seemed to be so smart, and his essence was like a whirlwind. For it's high, high, hard, drove to Chico in his car, geography a major to display, and topography in people he could see, and the world would be his to survey. Sadly, there's more. I was going to 4.
Me.
Once he came into the Napa Valley, Warren thought there should be change. Young mayor, fighting for kids, parks, taxes, living there to widespread acclaim. The work was done, so he and memories up to Napa with a hell of a roar. He lived in fame with his blonde flame, and certainly played every golf course. From the greens in Napa Valley to the links of New Zealand, Warren did his best to battle all the shanks and tops and sand. In the clubhouse he'd find refuge, spouting dreams of his low score. But his playing mites would question him, why are you always shouting for?
That's it. Well, that's over.
And this one is Warren's favorite for obvious reasons, this next one.
Yeah. It's pervy. All right.
Anchors away, Warren. Anchors away. Farewell on your last voyage. You sailed at break of day. Friend, to the end you stayed. That's just your way. Now we'll sing and toast your honor, Warren. We miss you every day. 2.
Oh, I don't think the second part needs much of an introduction. We're just going to go ahead with a song we've pirated.
No.
Just pirated. I prefer to think just pirated. So So we'll call Miss Warren.
Butchering will come later. All right.
So Ann, I
I'm
think
first.
we're ready.
Anne's almost ready.
You go over there.
Okay.
Chuck.
Yeah,
I gotta tell you everything.
right behind you. I'm the second act.
Unforgettable in every way. In our hearts, that's how you'll stay. Not to be dislodged by any happenstance. We'll carry on, feeling you're here all along, and continue to feel you'll always be.
Irrepressible. That's who you are. Suspended now in space, the brightest star. Just to be clear, we continue to hold you dear. Just know our thoughts of you are irrepressible too.
Irreplaceable. In every way. In our hearts, you're here to stay. Wedged in deeply, you've made your mark. A jubilant voice, a benevolent heart. Even though you've left, it's here you'll always be, too.
Yes, intractable. That's what you are. Yet no substitute for you. Searching near and far. While our hearts are close to breaking, holding you close, there's no mistaking. You're staying with us. You're along for our ride.
And
You're unforgettable.
Sandwich, most delightful. Two broad bread parts thrust together, adjoining, seeming rightful. Two slices in form, not quite identical, but in preferences and values, decidedly fraternetical. By chance put together, pressed into a team, these young parts began addressing, what does all this mean? Who are we anyway, and where are we going? What kind of seed should we be sowing? We started collecting stuff in between, what we thought, what we felt, whom we've met, what we've seen, all held together between our two slices, cataloged and placed with devoted devices. Over 46 years, we gathered our thoughts, dotted the I's, connected the dots. Lots of experiences all layered inside, bulging interstices where great memories reside. Our early parallel parental years were accompanied by quite some shifting gears from birth through childhood's varied loci, matching new roles with shifting foci. We both got two great kids apiece, then guided, provided, and provisioned them each. In the mountains, on beaches, we scurried around. Our children with backpacks, we set out nature-bound. With boots and with swim trunks, we stomped and we dove, exploring in wonderment nature's broad treasure trove. From sunset visuals to welcoming the dawn, we shared remote places hither and yon. We watched 4 children grow and stretch, wondering what direction their life course might fetch. Constant support for their challenges, finding admiration for their pathways unwinding. And he, with loving kindness, always given, is both advancing, softly driven toward positive goals with progressive success, both finding careers that continue to impress. Now raising their children and following example, Warren's patterns remain for them to sample. At concert halls and wineries, we heard musical musings, then shared layers in response from inspiring to amusing, transported by rhythm, by melody, and phrase, our aesthetic consciousness constantly raised. From snacks in the backyard to sumptuous food blasts, good friendship enhanced by fine wine with repasts. At parties, Warren flourished with glimmering gloss, raised glasses and saluted, and found in vino veritas. In New Zealand, trips to visit the Nelson home there, from big trees to Maoris, a swirl for this pair, augmented by Warren's perpetual yearning to embrace as he did curiosity-led learning. In travel to France's quieter central heart, explored small villages and caves in that part, cavorted with mates above and below ground, bundles of learning sought for and found. Then pulmonary disease rudely intruded. Right and left lungs progressively colluded to limit his strength and roundabout movement. No hope for intrinsic physiologic improvement. 3 to 4 years of continual declining left Warren adjusting, impacted, without whining. No stale of purpose, no rot, no mold affected the stuffing we continued to hold. 8 years ago, our trips to SoCal to procure a new lung, a gift of life from a stranger who remains still unsung. He pressed on bravely since, with immunosuppression, perpetually cheerful, devoid of depression. A dutiful patient was Warren, our friend, who followed his post-transplant regimen till the end, took pills by the handful thrice daily to his credit, then washed them down with a fine ruby claret. Thereafter, as with his breathing, his golf game improved. On his scorecard, triple digits were permanently removed. Others commenting, he's returned each golf day, he's amazing. His long game shimmered and his short game was blazing. His drives were straight and his putting on course. In New Zealand, kept good humor, even stymied by rough gorse. His life, like his play, had many tough spots, but he managed them boldly with decisive, fine shots. 46 years of collecting together materials assembled with best buddy tether, often thrilled through and through, care painted out in every emotional hue. Each slice watched how the other was doing, each added stuff worthwhile in pursuing. No better sandwich partner than this Napa man, whose humor helped propel our lives' caravans. Like many here, feeling ripped rudely apart from a friend's presence, how to manage his depart. For me, This top slice has gone missing, and here's the challenge: to try to maintain the innards in balance, uneven, unwieldy on just one slice below, while still making more to continue and grow. Our assemblage remains still helpful to me wherever I go, whatever view I might see, referring to the substance we both packed away as a guidebook to pathways, alert to its play. With his presence always felt, I remain resolute to negotiate life's angles from obtuse to acute. In conclusion, I'll return now to the place I began. Missing this top size, this brave, marvelous man, my review here in sum, with grateful clarity, I offer this proclamation with humble sincerity. In style, in boisterousness, both domestic and foreign, no slice will ever top a sandwich like Warren.